1 to 10. Sanjaya uvacha samtathakripayavishtam ashrunakulekshanam vishidantramidam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha Shri Bhagavanuvacha Utasvakashmadamidam Vishame samupastitam Anadyajushthamasvadyam Akirtikaram Arjuna Klaivyam masmagamapartha Naitatvaidyupapadyate Shudram hridaya daurvalyam Tyatvotishtha parantapa Arjuna uvacha Katam bhishmamaham sankhe Dronam cha madhusudana Yishuti pratiyokhyami Pujahavalisudana Guruna hatpahi mahanubhavan Shreyo bhoktum vaikshyamapi haloke Atvartakamam sugurunihaiva Bhunjiya bhogan rudirapradikhan Nachaitat vismak kataram no gariyaha Yadvajaye mayati vano jayeyuhu Yani vahatvana jijivishamaha Devastita pramukhe dhartarashtraha Karpanya doshopahatas svabhavaha Pritchami tvam dharma sammudachetaha Yashreyasya nishkitam bruhitanme Shishyasте hamshadimam tvam prapannam Nahi prapashyami mamapanutyay Yacchokamuccoshanamindriyanam Avapya bhumavasapadnamriddham Rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam Sanjaya uvacha Eva mukta rishikesham Rakeshah parantapa Nayotya iti govindam Udvatushnim babhuvaha Samuvacha rishikeshaha Prahasanniva bharata Tenayorubhayor madhye Vishidantamidam vachaha
There is a question, I will take it up first. It is in relation to the two words, Swabhava and Swadharma. The word Swabhava is used many a times in the text, and the word Swadharma is always used in a specific context. The word Swadharma will be used. Right. Even now, just now, in verse number 7, Arjuna used the word Swabhava. In 18th chapter, Krishna goes on using the word Swabhava. This is the Swabhava. So, first is Swadharma. Swadharma is used in the context of talking about a person's inclinations, tendencies, the preferences, all this put together, we call it as Swadharma. Swadharma is used in the context of wanting to explain about the man's inclinations, tendencies, preferences. All this put together is Swadharma. Swabhava is more of a temperament. My Swabhava is overpowered by pity, he says. Meaning, Arjuna's Swabhava is not, all that he is saying is, my Swabhava is not to feel pity, but then my Swabhava is changed. So, Swabhava means a temperament. In the ultimate sense, you can use it interchangeably. Most of the later textbooks, they use these two words so freely, Swabhava and Swadharma. They use it so interchangeably. Now, we don't even know the exact distinction. Because of the word Bhava and because of the word Dharma, and we have our own meanings to the word Bhava and Dharma, we keep mixing it up. But then these two words have distinct meaning. Swabhava is more of that emotional, it's more of that emotional temperament. In the 18th chapter, he talks about Swabhava as in the sense of the four castes. Brahma Karma Swabhavajam, he will say. And I am talking purely from memory. Shastram Karma Swabhavajam, Shudram Karma Swabhavajam. If I remember 18th chapter, verses 41, 42, 43, 44, he talks about Krishna uses the word Swabhava. There also he means the same way in the sense Arjuna is using. It's more of a temperament. Swadharma is completely, Swadharma is the distinct inclinations and preferences is Swadharma that helps a person to choose a field of activity. An understanding of one's own inclinations, tendencies, preferences will help a person to choose a distinct field of activity. So he says, Shreyanto dharmo vigunaha paradharmo vayavaha. Again in the 18th chapter he says, better Swadharma Arjuna, don't do this paradharma. So what he means there is, stick to your field of activity, which is completely against the modern day thing about saying you can do 3-4 things at the same time. You can do only, or you should do only one thing at a time. So that is the difference between Swadharma and Swabhava. Swabhava will be more in the later period. The word Swabhava started appearing more in the Bhakti texts, which is more in the emotional sense. In the Gita, he uses it in a slightly different way. I am not going into that hair-splitting distinction between the two. I am not going into that. But these are the two basic differences. Again, in most of the contexts, these two can be interchangeably used also. If you say Swabhava means the original nature, in the same way you can say Swadharma also has the original nature. In that sense, Swabhava and Swadharma becomes the same. But generally in the Gita, in the Upanishads, they don't use it interchangeably like that. They have a very distinct application to the word Swadharma, very distinct application to the word Swabhava. Is it okay? Swa is common, one's own. Dharma is nature. Bhava is temperament. One's own one's own temperament. Very beautifully he uses the word Swabhava. We'll be seeing that verse very soon. Verse number 7. He says, my nature, my Swabhava is gone. What is the Swabhava of the Kshatriya? To get up and fight. That Swabhava of mine is not saying my Swadharma has gone. My Swabhava has gone. So it is that temperament, which is of your basic nature, which he clearly explains in the 18th chapter when he talks about the 4 castes and the Swabhava of each and every caste. Yes. Yes, madam. Yeah. Yes. 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 This difficulty in the modern day context of the way that we are living now, it's almost impossible to find out. Because to find out Swadharma or Swabhava, I should have done the work within myself first. Number 1. Number 2 is the manifestations happen when the conditionings are very less. That's where it can be found out at a very young age. Therefore, what they did, before the conditioning starts, the younger generation was left in the Gurukula. So, by observation, the teacher, by observation and by continuous objective observation, you will be able to find out. You cannot find it out through the process of analysis. It doesn't come through the process of analysis. It's through the process of. It's more about observation. When I say observation, you need an objective observation. Since parents lack that objective observation in relation to their own children, they are left in the Gurukula for the teacher to find out. Secondly, to find it out, you have to live with the master. Then only it can be found out. Now, since that system is never going to reappear, again, what does one do? Now? Because even before we know the other things, your observation is right. The conditioning comes in so complete, so fully conditioned that it's almost kind of impossible to find out, because when at the young age, when we are more alert and sharp, what he calls as the Udana Shakti at its peak, all sorts of things will go into you, and it will form a unique mixture in you, which is what is happening today. And that conditioning overpowers the Swabhava. Having said all this, how does one find out? For in the modern day context, how does one one find that out. We can use some indicators. There are certain, it's not that all hopes are lost. There are still some indicators which we can use. The first indicator which never fails you is this. You have a field of activity, you have a temperament. I am using Swadharma and Swabhava in the same way now, just to keep the process of explanation easy, just to make my job simpler for me. First thing is, you know that it is your Swabhava, in the sense you have a field of activity. You wake up in the morning, there is a spring in the feet. One more day to another day to do what I got to do. That's the first indicator, that you are doing something of your nature. Opposite of that is, I wake up in the morning, I have to use all my wisdom, all my EMIs, everything put together to say, get up and do what I have to. The first indicator which never fails is, you wake up and you are enthused about the day. Why you are enthused about the day? Because you know what you have to do in the day. You know that. Either you force yourself or you say, my God, in here let us not, might as well do. The first indicator is, you wake up, how enthused you are about the day's activity. The first indicator. If you take this as an indicator, most are not enthused about. Most are not enthused. It means it's a fact. It means it's a fact. Number one. The second indicator. Is it okay, the first indicator? Yes, obviously there will be a shade of likes and dislikes in it. Yes. That's why I avoided the word carefully. I avoided the word likes and dislikes, and I used the word preference, inclination, tendency, just milder word. Again it will be, there will be a shade of likes and dislikes in it. You cannot avoid that. There will be a shade of likes and dislikes in it. Yes. Therefore, there will be a shade of like in it. That is perfectly all right. But what happens is, with the like, you will have a corresponding dislike also. It's not only a like. With the like, what brings you down is the corresponding dislike. Therefore, we say, let not your likes and dislikes guide the action. That doesn't mean you will not like what you do, enthused about it. You follow what I am saying? So there will be a shade of like in it. Don't use the word dislike. When dislike aspect in you takes over, the enthusiasm drops. When the dislike aspect takes over, what drops? The enthusiasm drops. And don't get too carried away by bringing in this word likes and dislikes. That's why I avoided this word, because the moment you bring in this word likes and dislikes, the entire thinking will take off in in a completely different tangent. That's why I used the word inclination and preference. There is a preference between I wake up in the morning, if I have to go to a movie or a concert or a class, what I will be enthused about. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. So I wake up in the morning and I think, oh my God, they are reenacting the play today. Crazy Thieves they are reenacting the play today. And for the last 2 weeks, I am so tempted to cancel everything and go for it. Because how many times I have seen that, I know. Understand? Now, if I wake up in the morning today and I think, evening class alladu Vani Mahala, I should not be sitting here. You follow what I am saying? So, if you bring in likes and dislikes, it will take off in a completely different tangent. So, use the milder word, preference. Number one. Number two, very important when you follow a concept is, follow the word that I use. Don't replace it with your own words. When you want to replace it with your own words, you should do it when you are sitting and reflecting all by yourself. You follow what I am saying? As you are listening, follow the word that I use. Follow the word that is used in the text, because each and every word is chosen. It's chosen carefully. After a lot of deliberation, each and every word is chosen. That's why I was deliberately using the word preference. So stick to the word preference. Preference means that's your combination. Preference. What is the preference? That's what defines the individuality. What defines your individuality? What creates a difference between your individuality and my individuality? Is your distinct preferences versus my distinct preferences. Given a choice, I would like to go and eat a particular kind of food. That is my preference. But I will not allow that to determine everything that I do in life. I will not allow that to determine. So, supposing if I have to go to a place, first thing I will not ask is, will I get the food that I will not ask. You follow what I am saying? It means that likes and dislikes is started to interfere. Are you able to follow the difference? So use the word, wherever every individual must have a distinct preferences. They have it. If you don't have it, then you are a feather in the summer breeze. Anything and everything will be carried away. You follow? So distinct preferences are there anyway. It's not that you are trying to develop. You have it anyway. But when we talk about likes and dislikes, we say when it starts interfering with what you should be doing. What is it that you ought to do? If it interferes, it becomes a problem. If you are wise, what you will do? You will have enough strength you would have developed enough strength to start liking what you should ought to do. That's a very wise way of living. Simply start liking what you ought to do. There is no conflict after that. You follow what I am saying? Now here, the question of Swadharma and Swabhava comes about, how does one get a fair assessment about one's own self, one's own personality? That's the question. For which, the first indicator is, how enthused are you about your day's activities? Because you know what you are going to, more or less you know what you are going to do. How enthused are you about that? Shows whether it is according to your temperament or not, inclination or not. First indicator. The second indicator, is it okay? The second indicator is this. The very satisfaction you will find in the doing. That's the second indicator. You will not worried about, you will not be concerned about what the outcome of the action is going to be, because the very satisfaction is found in the doing. That's where which is very difficult to even conceive of now, because all along we are trained to trade the action. You follow what I am saying? All along we are trained to trade the action for something else. So even before I start the action, first thing that I discuss is what? What benefits I get. Yeah. And that is seen as a very wise way. Exactly opposite is this, where the action is so satisfying. The doing itself is so satisfying that whatsoever the result is, you are not bothered. Example, an authentic gambler will not be worried about the loss he makes. You know that? A true gambler, a genuine, authentic gambler will not worry about the loss, because the satisfaction is in only when I think that I am going to make profit through gambling, then there is a result that I have brought into the action. You follow? Take this as an example, you will understand this point. An authentic gambler will be so happy about gambling, because it is not the profit or loss. He will lose everything. You tell him, "Arey, you have lost everything, why don't you stop?" He says, no, I want to. Yeah, he will borrow, he will sell himself also, he will sell his wife also. Yeah. He will sell his wife also that is a very authentic, true gambler. You understand? Another example I will give you. Then it becomes easy to follow. How many people get into this share market? How many actually comes out making money? It's gambling. In a very, very crude, in a very, very refined way, that's all. In a very refined way it is, that's it. Because the market goes up one day, economy is going up. I say, how in one day it will go up like that? Next day it goes down. I read the analysis, why it went down. The cues are not very, something there, whatever was. Now, out of 100 who gets in, 98, they lose. And if you see the two who has made it, what will they do? This is called consistency. Nothing can stop that man. He will go. What takes away the consistency? What makes a person inconsistent? The result over the action. At least looking for one or two indicators that the result will come in the way that I want. He keeps on saying, Swamiji keeps on saying, I should have gone mad very fast, because the way that the guys looking at fellows like me around him, how he is still saying God only knows. So he keeps on saying, if that thing is not there, I would have gone mad already. What is that? At least one student of mine should grow nona finished. Because what makes you inconsistent? What brings the enthusiasm down into action? What acts as a speed breaker into the action is the result. Even before we start the action, we fix the result. If that is what is driving you, then it's not your bhava. You can do it. Everyone around you will tell you, what are you doing? You say, no, this is what I do. Second indicator, where the doing itself is so satisfying that action is not traded for a result. The doing is not traded for a result. That's the second thing. The third indicator, more and more you do, more and more your concentration improves. Again I repeat. The third indicator is, more you do, better is your concentration. Because you are doing that which you ought to do, your existing likes and dislikes are getting reduced, as a result of which your ability to concentrate improves. Another indicator to know that you are in what you are doing according to but then you do things in such a way that we develop a kind of mechanical expertise. The way in which actions are done, there is a kind of mechanical expertise. I won't use the word expertise, I would say it is only because one small change here, one small change there, the person will not be able to focus, to adapt, to quickly, not able to bring in the wisdom to the current situation. It means what? He has developed something you do repeatedly. Carefully follow what I am saying. Anything you do again and again, you develop a kind of skill, you develop a kind of expertise, and you think you have actually mastered it. Example, the surgeon who could operate on everyone else except his own wife. Example, he could save everyone else's life, but could not save. What happened to that expertise? What happened to that skill? That day when he should have said, what? Keep aside. I have to operate. He is not able to concentrate on what he. You understand? The third indicator is, between 10 years back and today, there should be a marked improvement in your concentration. How it works is, when you do that which you ought to do, in the way it has to be done by following the right principles, your existing likes and dislikes, the strength of your existing likes and dislikes reduces. When it reduces, there is an overall improvement. Today you see anyone who's got some expertise, some skill, he doesn't have any. There is no concentration at all. Very, very three broad indicators. Why I say these three as indicators is because all these three are fail proof. It will tell you exactly, it will tell you the truth so clearly. I might not be able to accept it. That is my problem. If I am not able to accept the truth, it's whose problem? Truth ought not to be changed to suit me. I need to change. That's all. You follow what I am saying? Even today it can be understood. So, if all these three is not happening more or less, you can fairly conclude that you are not doing things as per your three broad indicators. You can use it interchangeably. Seriya? Yes. Talikaila we will discuss. 3 questions. Yes. Yes. Correct. Yes. Correct. Yes. Yes. Correct. Yes. Yes, it will fade away. Because all these concepts of Swadharma, Swabhava and all that comes with an assumption, which we don't talk about at all. All this discussion comes with an assumption. What is that assumption? You are striving for evolution. You are striving for your spiritual evolution. If you are not striving for a spiritual evolution, anyway it falls under the category of Paradharma. It doesn't matter what field of activity we are into, it becomes Paradharma. Supposing for salary if I am teaching Vedanta, it becomes, even though the activity seems to be something very noble, it becomes Paradharma straight away. Therefore, first thing, the assumption here is, all these concepts has a fundamental assumption. What? The assumption is the person is inspired or enthused about evolution. To evolve, what should one do? In that context we are discussing this. Outside the context of this, outside the context of spiritual evolution, like working in an office, it doesn't matter. Whatever be the field of activity is, if the evolutionary part is not guiding it, straight away it turns selfish. Straight away it is selfish. And all the fight is because of, it's not the fight about what ought to be done. It's the fight of two selfish people. If there is a fight between the employer and the employee, the fight is not about, they are not fighting for what needs to be done. The fight is always for what? Selfishness. Consider this. One second, yes. The question. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. The question that she asked is, enna kette? Ganesh. Maranduttu. Answer, I forgot the question. The question that she asked is this. The moment there is a field of activity where there is salary involved, meaning the result is involved, there is an element of selfishness. Number one. Number two, there is no reference to growth there. Will not the concept of Swadharma, Swabhava and all this will not be applicable there? She came to the conclusion and I fully agreed with that conclusion. Actually, it's not a question. The conclusion is, I said, the second indicator. What is the second indicator? What is the second indicator? Doing satisfaction, not the result. Supposing a person goes for an interview, first thing they ask is what? Not the interviewer, the person who attends the interview. What does he ask? Package, salary geta kuda package they want to know. Retirement package kuda setillaya. Where is the concept of? What are we talking as? Swadharma there. Where there is the satisfaction in doing and all. For which I said the entire concept of the discussion of Swadharma itself arises only when you are striving for evolution, when you are striving for spiritual evolution. If you are not striving for spiritual evolution, don't worry about all these concepts, because these concepts is not, it's not that the concepts are wrong. You will not know how to apply it in that sense. Is it okay? First question? Yes, ma'am.
Not applicable. Suppose my attitude would be, I am born in a certain position, and I have a role to play. I'm supposed to develop whatever.
Correct.
And so therefore I'm taking up a job for a salary, or being a housewife, or being a sports person, whatever. And I can evolve into all these things. So how does it not fall under my Swadharma?
It will not fall under your Swadharma, because suppose I am doing what I ought to do. Suppose I am enthused about what I am doing. Suppose I am interested only in evolution. Then it is what? Evolutionary action. Swadharma is not, the word Swadharma is not the concern there. Because what are you moving towards? Higher. You are moving towards the higher. That's all that matters. Swadharma, Swabhava, Paradharma, Parabhava, all this has no meaning there. The entire discussion is under the context of what? Under the context of what? A person trying to assess one's own. Don't move away from the basis of the whole thing. If you move away from the basis, you will get into, you'll be meandering into too many things. You will not be understanding anything. The question is, but then here you are talking about a case where a person has understood all this. That person will have no problem. Here we are talking about a situation where a person is attempting to understand one's own Swabhava. Don't forget that framework. Don't try and bring all the what all you know from other contexts. Don't bring it in. If you bring it in, it will be confusing. Or the confusion is because we are not sticking to the framework. Now I am sticking to that framework. The very fact that the starting point of action is fixing the result. What will drive that man? It's the result that is going to drive him. He is not saying I will do. That's it. If a person can say I will do, that's it. There is no difficulty. You follow? But then no one does actions like that. But in the world, whether will it be applicable or not? World is something that has to be dissolved and transcended. World is something that has to be dissolved and transcended. All this discussion is in that assumption. Yeah. You follow? Seriya? Second question. Answered. Yes. Yes. Correct. See, to avoid the difficulty of the modern day context, what we are suffering today, they made the segregation so clearly and they kept it so rigid. They kept it so rigid so that this Varna Sankara intermixture should not have happened. But the fact that it has already happened, and the fact that the entire humanity, if not all, predominantly we have started only trading. We have started trading the action. More like whatever caste outside the person is born into, predominantly is only Vaishya only today. Predominantly is only the very good mixture of Vaishya and Shudra. Not to demean it in the way, please. I am not demeaning it in that way. I am only saying the starting point of action is what? The result. The starting point of action is result. Even when I decide the school for the child, on what basis do I decide? On what basis the person decides? Supposing I say, here is a school where your child will become a very good individual. Here is a school where they guarantee ranks in the deepest core. What will you be attracted to? Better individual appuram paathukalam sir. First let us get ranks. It means action, education, whatever we approach in life, first thing that we are so much enthused to see is what? The result. The result. So we keep that as the starting point. Why the result? Result means tangible. Result means that which is beneficial. Result means when I ask for result, when I look for result, it's not I am looking for the result. What I am actually looking for? Comfort. Actually I am looking for comfort. Because in comfort, what can be stopped? Action. In comfort, what can be stopped? Action can be stopped. Exactly opposite is Swadharma. You go on and on and on in inaction. Again I repeat, when we talk about the result, it's not the result. Like take the simple thing, wealth. There is this mad craving for wealth. There is this craving over this wealth. It's not for wealth. It is for the comfort the wealth is going to produce. Moment the comfort comes, what happens? The person will not be enthused to increase the quality of the action. The moment the comfort comes, what happens? What happens? Action itself drops. You follow? That's the saddest part. That's why it's called, in comfort you step up the quality of your action. That's called the tapas. Again I repeat, in comfort you make an effort to step up the quality of your action. That is tapas. Exactly the opposite is what I am looking for wealth. When I am looking for wealth, I am looking for comfort, because in comfort what can be stopped? Action can be stopped. Therefore, the starting point of action is what? To stop action. The starting point of action is to stop action. Exactly opposite is the spiritual evolutionary way of living. He says, die with your boots. Ramadita, die with your boots on. Keep to action. Keep to action. Keep to action. That enthusiasm for action, that utsaha for action, that endless reservoir of energy into action comes from where? Comes only when it is of your, only when that action is it of your nature. Only when it is, because you are not concerned about the result, you are not concerned about anything, but the way in which you do the quality action, result will come to you. You cannot avoid it, because action will inevitably produce a result, and if you do quality action, quality result. See, that's where how every parent destroys the children. Is this is how they destroy. They madly create wealth and they pass it on to them. You think you are passing wealth, you think you are passing comfort. What are you actually passing? Inaction, laziness, indulgence. First thing that happens is indulgence, followed by lethargy, laziness, followed by indifference. Exactly opposite advice he gives. Don't worry about the result. Never keep result as the yardstick of action. Never keep result as the yardstick. Today we start with the aim of result means comfort means stop. Therefore, the starting point of action is to stop action. That's why there is this hurry, there is this anxiety to quickly to acquire more, to accumulate more. Once you acquire more, once you accumulate more, after that you can go on a holiday. Yeah, you can go on a holiday, relax. Exactly opposite is that. You follow what I am saying? It appears to be comfort in the it appears as comfort in the superficial layer. In effect, what it is? If you are wise, in effect it produces indulgence, lethargy, indifference. If you are wise, what will you do? The quality action produced this quality result. Now, how do I improve the quality? How do I improve the quality? How do I improve the quality? It means you have no time to sit and indulge. You have no time to sit and indulge. Reap the benefits of your action. Or, in fact, you are reaping the real benefit. That's why I call the concentration as the third indicator. Because you have reaped the real benefit. See, a person who can concentrate is the man who is not agitated. An agitated person cannot concentrate. If a person is able to concentrate, it means he is not agitated. What more a person wants? Is it okay? I see you at least once in a week. I see her very often. So, Modala, I will attend to her first. Yes. In the modern day context, it has no relevance at all. It has no relevance because the intermixture has happened much already. To that extent, it is going to be difficult in the modern day context. To that extent, it is difficult. Because the conducive environment was, just because a few didn't like that conducive environment, they break it. Not realizing why it was done, what it was done. Just because I don't like something. See, a simple example. Every visitor who comes to the academy will have 10 suggestions on how to run that place. No one can sit and think, lot of thought has already gone into it. Let me just stick to it for a while, see what it is, and then straight, even before they can settle down, from where it comes? From where it comes? There are so many things in that environment that is not to my likes and dislikes. That's all it is. There are so many things there which is not according to my likes and dislikes. Therefore, I will want to. So, every environment I will try to change according to my likes and dislikes. So, since it has already happened, birth and all has no. To determine the swabhava through birth is something meaningless today. The boy here who will not even visit the temple, who will not even do anything, goes to the other side of the globe, start visiting temples. The comical thing was, one of the persons known to me had a newborn child, kept the name Rishi. I couldn't control my laughter. I didn't laugh outside. I just kept quite inside. Supposing if the boy turns around and says, I really want to be a Rishi. I know every family member will commit suicide. There is no relevance to anything today. It's a total chaotic situation. In this situation, still how to see this can be. So birth has no relevance. Yes, Bharat. Yes. 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 Yes.
So it actually contradicts what you're saying. We should not keep the result in mind.
Correct.
But here, when you're saying improve the quality.
When we say improve the quality, there is no definition there is no fixation to say this is the quality. It is an infinite process. We say improve the quality. If you turn around and ask, what is the ultimate quality? We say your own self, your own self, your own true nature. Oh, that quality I didn't ask for. You follow what I am saying? So whenever we talk about the quality, we use it. There are two ways of using the word quality. In the way in which in the world it is used is how to become more efficient, how to become more successful, how to make it better and better and better, so that very quickly you can stop action itself. That is one side. Here when we talk about quality, it is an infinite process where you cannot fix and say this is the quality. If I reach there, I have achieved it. That point doesn't exist at all. Therefore, whatsoever distance you cover, you still realize what? Much more to go. Therefore, by this explanation, what is driven? What is indicated? What is indicated? That's all. Action should be an endless process. Number two, there is no reason to act other than the fact that you are still alive. There is no reason to act. Why should I act? You are still alive. Act. Because when you are dead, actions will stop by itself. Yeah. And thank God you won't even know that. Yeah. Thank God you don't even know that you are dead. Amen. You understand? Therefore, when we talk about the quality of the action goes on improving, what it means is the subtlety. The subtlety increases. What is the subtlety in action? From concentration to, the subtlety in action is the shift from a general concentration to a more focused concentration, ultimately meditation. That's the real. If at all you want to define something as the quality, that's the quality. What is meditation? You tell the mind stay here. It stays. Full stop. It doesn't go It doesn't go by itself. Today, mind goes wherever it wants and I have to run, and I am running behind it. Instead of the mind running behind me, I am running behind it. If at all you want to say something as a quality, you can say it. So, in the relative sense, we can aim for that. The three yogas, karma, bhakti, jnana yogas, leads to the state of uparati to dharana to dhyana. Up to that point you have to reach. All this is because the goal is self-realization. The goal is self-realization. It's not contradiction in terms. It's an indication of how it is the process, not the destination. It's the process, not the destination. Law of thermodynamics says 100% efficient engine cannot be produced. First law. Thermodynamics says 100% efficient engine cannot be produced, and we go on making engines with the full understanding what it cannot be made. It's a what sets the direction, something very, very high, almost impossible. That's where we say it's not the destination, the process. Result means destination. Action means the process. The enthusiasm is in the process. The enthusiasm is in the process. What keeps you going? Because it's of your nature. What keeps you going right till the end? Because it's of your nature, within brackets. Within brackets. You have consciously directing it towards evolution. That is implied here. So boring to say it again and again. Not so boring to say it, so boring to hear it in Radhanala. These things are implied. Is it okay, Bharat? It's always the process, not the destination. Disconnecting the destination and focusing on the process is what we call as sannyas. This is sannyas. Focusing on the process, not on the fruit, not on the destination. That's why it's called sannyas, detached. Detached from what? Detached from the result. Sasannyasi cha yogi cha. Verse number 1, chapter 6. Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karotiyah sasannyasi cha yogi cha. It's clearly spelled out. Verse number 1, chapter 6. Yes, ma'am. Yes. 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 No, there is no evolution at all. There is no evolution at all. See, that's where you talk about two words, self-realization versus self-development. People will agree for self-development because from a bad ego to good ego. Self-realization means annihilation of the ego. Here, we are talking now only about the annihilation of the ego. That's where I have seen it. You talk about self-realization versus self-development. People will say, sir, self-realization and all we'll see later. First we should become a better human being, no? And what is becoming a better human being? God only knows what that better human being is. There is only one. What? With ego or without ego. That's all. With ego, you can say, oh, bad ego is not accepted, but good ego is accepted. That is what is relative. Trying to make it better and better, in the hope that better one day will become the best. It doesn't work that way. That's where the enlightened master will not allow you to stop, will not allow you to accept anything relative in nature, because anything relative in nature is selfish. Anything relative in nature is unreal by nature. It cannot be. It is not true. But then the ego will agree for what? The ego will agree to cooperate to be good. The ego will agree to be good, isn't it? Such an interesting thing in the movies, how they introduce the hero and how they introduce the villain. The villain will be drinking or some ganja he will take, or he will be dancing in disco. And what will the hero do? How he is introduced? Breaking coconut in a temple. Correct. Yeah. அது நல்ல ஃபுல்லா அப்படி போட்டுக்கிட்டா very good. Because it's so, see that there is a unyielding tendency in a human being to let go of the ego. The ego is so stubborn, is so unyielding that it will not allow you to let go completely. It will agree to what? I will be a better person. I will be a true devotee of God. I will do everything, but allow me to be alive. In whatever way you want me to do, I will do, but allow me to be alive. You want me to change the dress, I will change the dress. You want me to change the field, I will change the field, but don't destroy, don't annihilate me, don't destroy me. Who says that? Ego says that. And anything relative will be appealing to the ego. The goal of self-realization is not appealing to whom? To the ego. Because if you say self-realization, you say, yes sir, I am ready. What should I do? Destroy the ego. Annihilate the ego. This I will come back. I will come back to you later on this. But tell me first. A bad person like me and all is not fit for self-realization, sir. First I should become good person, no. As though someone told you good person alone is fit for. In fact, who is fit for self-realization? Bad person only. Number one. Number two, anything relative, anything good induces inaction, comfort, coma. At least when you are bad, there is an agitation. You keep. There is a search going on. There is a thirst going on. The moment you turn good, what is there in you that is going to keep the search alive? That's where these masters do not agree for anything relative. Howsoever difficult it is, howsoever uninspiring it is, howsoever tough it is, do not compromise. In this context, Vivekananda said something very important. Very beautifully he put it. Because if you read his life, the way he strived, very rarely you get a man like him who actually strived. And he said something wonderful. He said, there are two ways of living, he said. One is, you lift yourself up for the sake of the goal, or bring the goal itself down. Two ways, he says. Because every time he was striving for the goal of self-realization, and he kept on slipping. How he slipped? This is what he is saying. I am not saying. I am not sitting and deciding. I am not sitting in judgment over him. He said, there are two ways of living. One is, you lift yourself up for the sake of the goal, or bring the goal itself down. And if you look at the world, everyone brings the goal itself down. And how do we bring the goal down? How do we bring the goal down? Self-realization we'll see later. Self-realization we'll see. See, when we say self-realization we'll see later, what are we actually saying? Complete annihilation of the ego we'll see later. At least keep the ego alive, no? At least let me say I am your devotee, no? At least the ego has to say I am your. Technically I'll explain how it works. 5 more minutes. In everything, the I comes first. In everything, the I comes first. I know, I act, I am your devotee. Even when I say I am your devotee, I am talking about the man going and telling God, I am your devotee. I comes first. What comes next? In everything, what comes first? The I comes first. I know. The I comes first. The knowing is secondary. In everything, the I comes first. What is working for the goal of self-realization? Not to worry about knowledge, not to worry about devotion, not to worry about action, to worry about I. To worry about the I. Negate the. How to negate the I? How to eliminate the I? Why do you have to negate it? Why do you have to eliminate it? Because you are coming and complaining about misery. Because you are complaining about misery, the cause for misery is the I. Or at least you should reconcile what? I will be miserable. At least you should reconcile what? As long as the ego is there, misery will be there. At least you reconcile and be happy with it. There is no difficulty. Since you come and ask, how do I get out of the misery? How do I get out of the agitations? How do I get out of the disturbances? What is the answer? Eliminate the I, because that I comes first. That's where you say I know. The intensity is on the intensity to the knowing comes from the I. It's the I part. Once you eliminate the I part, the knowing you will not be so what? You will not declare so strongly that I know. You will say maybe, because what is removed there? The I is removed. You follow what I am saying? I am just taking this as an example to explain how the I works. When you say I know, the intensity to the knowing becomes important. The knowing becomes valuable from where? From the I. Simple example. You write 4 sentences of poetry versus the complete works of Shakespeare. What will look more attractive to you? That 4 lines. Why? That you can see something of I in that. Wherever you can see I, there is interest. What is this called? What is this called? Ego. Wherever I is attended to, there is an interest. What is this called? Selfishness. Correct. Therefore, in one word, the enlightened master says, all wise men say, every human being is selfish. How does it come? From where does it come? From the I part. So remove the I part. When the I part is removed, the knowing is there, but you will say what? Maybe. Maybe. You will not say I don't know. You will say maybe. Vidya leads to. Yeah. In the Subhashitani he says Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. The Vidya leads to the Vidya of what? Vidya of the uselessness of the I. Knowledge about the uselessness of the I. Knowledge about the futility of the I. If not, wherever I go, what comes first? Before the body goes, what reaches there? The ego goes there and stand in front, welcoming me. Whose ego? Whose ego? Your own ego. That's what Mahabali did in that Vamana. He asked, very, very symbolic is that Vamana avatar. He said 3 steps. Mahabali said, take 3 villages, 3 cities, 3 things, because baby steps, 3 baby steps, how much will you get? He said, no, 3 steps according to my measurement. Because the receiver decides, the giver doesn't decide. The taker decides how much he has to take. I will decide. Yeah. Mahabali said, Tatastu, granted, given. Immediately he ballooned up. Yeah. Vishwarupa he took. He took that Vishwarupa. 2 steps. He measured everything. And then he asked him, where is the, you said 3. Where is the 3rd? Very wise man that Mahabali should have become. Yeah. He bowed down and said, place it on my head. Why? That ego that I carry is much, much bigger than. You have measured the known and the unknown and all that. But I have come to realize now what? The ego that I carry is much, much bigger than that. Adula enough space is there still. Please place your. So symbolic. He pushed him inside. Pushed it. Annihilated it completely. Therefore, I remains in anything relative. What will remain? I remains. Whether it exists in a pure form or an ugly form doesn't matter. It is existing. When we say it is existing, the potential to destroy is there. Temporarily it might be good, but the potential to destroy is there. All that I has the potential to destroy. That's where E. Carpenter says, even if there is a little bit of it left, it will spoil it all. E. Carpenter said, even if there is a little bit of I left, it will come and spoil it all, because that potential is, don't know that. The wise one who has crossed it, he knows the intensity and he sees you playing with fire all the time. He is screaming on top of his voice, telling you don't play with it, don't play with it. I look at him and say, it's very attractive, no? It's very cooling. Fire is, that which should burn you up, is creating comfort. Now what to do? Therefore, at least as a concept, whether you start accepting and following it or not is different. At least as a concept, at least as a theory, understand what? Anything relative, ego is still there. Potential is there. And that I is that selfishness. Because wherever it is there, the interest is me. I go to someone sends me, someone comes home and invite me to the wedding, that is not enough. If I go to the wedding hall, someone has to be there by the door to receive me, that is not enough. I should go straight to the couple, that is also not enough. Even when I go and sit and eat, someone has to come and attend. Even that is not. When no one pays attention, I'll come back saying what? I'll come back saying, they don't know how to. The fact that they have given the wedding invitation itself is enough. No, everything is included in that. Literally it happened. One of the function, we went to some place. So there is it's a high security place. So unless someone, they gave ID cards to 4. Any visitor comes, that 4 has to come and receive. Otherwise, the fellow will not allow us in. It's Z plus security. So, as usual, true to our nature, we went late. Muhurtam started. Why will the 4 be standing outside? They are all inside. So we said, okay, wait, let us go. That uncle of mine, we will go back. Road le nikka vechitanga. He said, we came late. We are calling. Why will that man come? That I, wherever it goes, it wants. The I comes first. Wherever it goes, it wants, it comes first. Lastly, I conclude. The bad ego is not dangerous. The good ego is dangerous. The good ego goes through more suffering than bad ego. Isavasya Upanishad says, blinding darkness. The good ego is far more dangerous than the bad ego. That's what Isavasya says, blinding darkness. Those in the world are in darkness. Those in spirituality are in blinding darkness. Meaning what? They come here, they come to the higher and compromised on the goal. As a result of which what happens? The ego is so cunning, it will know how to use this to justify its stance. Therefore, always the advice is, never mind it is difficult, never mind it is impractical, never mind hard work has to be done, never mind all that. At least tell yourself, there is no compromise on the goal. Remember Vivekananda. He said there are two ways. One is, you can lift yourself up for the sake of the ideal. Another thing is, bring the ideal itself down. Seriya?